guys, welcome to another video. So my computer decided to glitch and I can't record anything. I actually had to re-record a video twice and the second one managed to work. I did a fantasy tier list and I did two different tier lists of fantasy books, rating them from best to worst, or in my case, the ones I've read versus the ones I haven't read. That one didn't save, so I decided to give up and try again. I'm not going to re-rank the ones that I already did, but ignore all of these. I'm trying to find a recorder software program that works. So we're going to try today. Fiction book genre tier list is what I'm going to be doing, so I'm going to rate fiction book genres based on the criteria here. So S means it's like perfect. A means it's a great genre, B means it's pretty good, C means it's fine, and then D is like, why does this exist? So keep in mind these are my personal opinions about these genres. I'm going to be talking about them from an author and a reader perspective. So for me, the criteria is going to be both genres I like to write and genres I like to read. And if you disagree with any of this, then I suggest and highly encourage you guys to check out the tier maker in the comments, and you can rate these yourselves. Let me know what you think. So let's get into this. So adventure, I would say. See, the thing is, a good fantasy, for me, fantasy is my favorite. And you can't have a good fantasy without a good adventure. Why is urban fantasy on here? Do we even have... Here we go. Fantasy. Okay. Fantasy, my favorite genre to read and write. I don't know where I would be in the world without a good fantasy, without a little bit of magic, a little bit of dragons, a little bit of magical creatures. So for me, a good fantasy cannot actually be a good fantasy book without a little adventure thrown in there. And I'm going to say without a little bit of romance. I love romance. Clean romance, not erotic romance. And for me, a good fantasy book has adventure and it has romance, and they're perfectly blended. So for me, those are definitely my top three favorite genres. Coming of age, no. I don't like reading coming of age stories because I don't like reading about teenagers and young people. I don't know what it is about me that just I can't read about younger characters. I don't know if it's because I like the character to mimic me or be more relatable, and so therefore they need to be closer to me in age, like 20s, 30s. I don't like older characters either if they're the main characters. So I like middle-aged characters my own age. I'm weird. But I don't like coming of age stories. There are a few that I enjoy, but it's just like, no. Crime is amazing. I cannot write crime very well, but I love reading books that have to do with crime. I love watching true crime and fictional crime and crime shows, and it's my favorite. I love it. And honestly, crime, and I would say thriller, is more a favorite. And for me, thriller books are the only books that I've known that really get me into reading again. When I've been in that rut where I can't read, it's like reading thrillers actually is what, like, thrillers are so exciting and thrilling. They just hook me and it gets me into reading again. I would say mystery and thriller and crime are all in and or out the same for me. Mysteries are a little bit more boring if they don't have the thriller aspect, and same with crime. So I feel like there is mystery and crime in a thriller, but crime and mysteries do not necessarily have to have the thriller. But for me to enjoy it, the mystery and the crime has to have the thrill with it. So to me, it's like they're all pretty much roped into one. Okay, so dystopian. I'm going to say dystopian's pretty good. I don't like to read it. I like to write the idea of oppressive societies. That honestly really intrigues me. But for me, true dystopian, the actual genre, is mostly science fiction, futuristic. And I prefer oppressive societies in a fantasy or medieval setting. And so I don't really fit the dystopian genre all that much. But I love the concept of dystopian. I just don't read it very much because, again, I'm not huge on sci-fi anyway. And most dystopians are YA, like The Maze Runner and Divergent and Hunger Games, and that's just younger people. So I would say if it was an adult character close to my age, fantasy, medieval, dystopian society, basically Hunter, then that would be S tier, but the actual genre of dystopian is what it is. What are these? Historical fiction. Yes, I love historical fiction. I love reading them. I enjoy writing them. Immortal is my best and longest and biggest project because it is about a guy who lives for 2,000 years. An archaeologist finds his journals, so we literally go from Egypt and ancient Rome to modern day history, but we jump across all kinds of my favorite historical time periods and genres. I'm excited because I'm getting ready to start the editing phase. Editor's already gotten part 1, so I'm getting ready to do round 1 myself. Love historical fiction though, it's my favorite. Nope, I don't do horror. Should not even exist. I'm just gonna put it in the D category. Nope, I wish there was an E category for it. Okay, I'm gonna put coming of age is okay fine because I have had a few coming of age stories that are really cool. D is just should not exist. Rom-com. I watch a lot of rom-coms, but I really just certain ones like Matthew McConaughey rom-coms are super funny. A lot of them though just a bunch of sexual references and they're not that great. I don't like reading or writing them. I'm specifically talking about watching rom-coms. There are a few that tickle my fancy that are made in a certain way in the movie where I can enjoy watching them, but I never read them, I never write them, and I do not enjoy reading or writing them. So for me, it's a genre that I really don't care about, and I would say it shouldn't exist, so it would go right above horror, except that I do enjoy some rom-com movies if they're done right. So that's why it's a C category for me. I like them even less than coming-of-age stories, though, because at least coming-of-age stories, I've read a few books that are coming-of-age stories that I did enjoy, whereas with rom-coms, I've never found a rom-com that I actually read and enjoyed. Sci-fi. I'm going to say it's great. I love Star Wars, so you would think I would put this in S tier for me, but I actually don't read a lot of sci-fi. I don't watch a lot of sci-fi. Star Wars is the example because it's very character driven, it's very mystical and mysterious. I love writing sci-fi, but I'm terrible at it, so I have a single sci-fi romance series called The Mech Wars, and I'm finished book 2 in that series this year. It's my only sci-fi. And I have The Republic Chronicles, which is a sci-fi fantasy. So for me, I love sci-fi, fantasy. I was fidgeting, sorry. And so for me, I can only write sci-fi really well and get super, super into it when it has magic and fantasy. So for me, what I did, because I'm not very good with the tech side of it, I just did magic and space. So it's like magically ran, spaceships and stuff like that with like Lord of the Rings style stuff, but in space. So it's space fantasy opera. So it's like space opera, but like with fantasy thrown in there. So for me, I would say that's actually why I like Star Wars, is because it's space opera. So I'm going to put it here because I like reading mystery crime thriller books more than I read sci-fi. The only sci-fi books I have ever read are Star Wars books. So Supernatural. I used to love like vampire romances or angel romances. Angel romances were huge when I was in high school, and nobody really talks about it because the vampire thing went on and lasted for a while, but angel romances were like huge. I did watch the show Supernatural until they got to twisting Christianity so much I couldn't take it anymore. And so for me, I did have a craze in my life where I did love supernatural content. These days, it's ghosts, zombies, angels, demons, and like twisting aspects of either Christianity or demons that just make me uncomfortable. And it borders on the line with horror for me because, it's like zombies, which is undead, and I believe that you either go to heaven or hell when you die. So zombies are out for me to really enjoy. And then you have ghosts, which same problem. You go straight to heaven or hell when you die, so ghosts. And so for me, it's just supernatural just gets really weird. But because I did have a time in my life when I loved consuming that content, and honestly, I just didn't care, and I didn't have any standards in my life like I do now, I have to put it in it's pretty good because there are some supernatural stuff that is pretty cool. And I am a sucker for like vampires and werewolves and other type of supernatural creatures that aren't undead. Because there are vampire creatures that don't necessarily die to become vampires. That's how I did it, where they just they get a disease or they get turned or, something like that. I love werewolves. I love vampires. I love the Vampire Diaries. I love the originals. And so for me, those are like supernatural type stuff that doesn't really cross into the bad territory, in my opinion. Urban fantasy. I'm going to say less than rom-com. I have written an urban fantasy by accident. So the Crystal Heist, I wrote it because I wanted to do a fantasy version of like a heist type book. And I didn't realize that it fit into the urban category until I researched it and went to figure out how to market the book. So it was an accident. I've never read urban fantasy. I've heard of it. I am only ranking it based on the concept and the fact that I wrote one by accident. But I would say I don't hate it enough to put it in the oh no why category. So it's just less because at least I've heard of rom-coms, at least I've heard of coming of age stories. I've heard of urban fantasy, but at least I've read books in these categories, whereas I haven't read an urban fantasy. I just wrote one. So young adult, you guys are going to hate me for this, but young adult is so overrated. I would say it's okay, fine. I'm only putting it above coming of age because I did used to read YA when I was a young adult. Which for me, what annoys me about YA is that it's called young adult, but the characters in it all are required to be 18 or younger to classify as young adult, whereas in reality, young adults are actually between the ages of 18 and 25. And so for me, if it was a little bit more like, because to me it's like, well, your characters are supposed to be teenagers, but your audience, what you're actually calling yourself, is technically 18 to 25. And so for me, if it was 25 or younger in the characters, I would accept the genre a lot more now that I'm older. But for me, I just can't read about teenagers. There's something about me that disconnects when the main character, like, you could have super creative world building, super creative characters, ideas, plot lines. You could have everything that I love, and if the character is like 16 or younger, I will just freak out and not be able to read it. I may be able to like slide with 17 or 18, but like I don't know why I can't. So, anyways, this is my genre tier list. Favorite is fantasy, adventure, romance, and historical fiction in that order. A tier that are great is thrillers, crimes, mysteries, and sci-fi. The pretty good is dystopian and supernatural. The okay fine is young adult, coming of age, rom-com, urban fantasy, and then finally horror just shouldn't exist. So that's my tier list. What is your tier list? Check it out. I have the list to this tier in the comments below. The link. I have the link to this tier in the comments below so you can rank it yourself because I'm interested in what you guys rank it. Let me know in the comments below what your opinion is. If you don't want to do the actual tier ranking, you can just, critique me and yell at me for my choices or whatever and give me your opinion. If you did like this tier list video, please give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Please hit the like button because this is the second video I've done with a tier list and I lost my first one. You guys will never get to see it because it's lost and I've had so much trouble. And in the meantime, if you did like this tier list, then please check out this tier list where I did, actually it should be over here on the screen, wrong way, should be over here on the screen somewhere, but it was a genre trope list, I think, so it's like the tropes from book tropes, basically, so check that out, you don't want to miss it. I'm sure you're curious as to what tropes are the best and which ones are the worst, so check it out, you don't want to miss it.